All right, well, it is about 1:03, so let's go ahead and get started. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar. It's Never Too Soon, Federal Retirement Planning, Key Decisions, and Risk Considerations. Today's webinar is hosted by WAEPA, and my name is Casey Nail. I am with Shaw, Bransford, and Roth, publisher of the Fed Agent and Fed Manager newsletters, and I will be serving as your moderator today. Before we begin, a few housekeeping items. The webinar today is being recorded, and all registrants will receive both the recording and the presenter slide deck after the event. We encourage you to submit questions throughout the webinar using the Q&A feature in the chat. Our speakers will reserve time in the final 15 minutes to address questions. If we have additional questions remaining at the end of the hour, our presenters have graciously agreed to stay on for 10 additional minutes, but we will make sure you're aware once we have reached the hour. So now it is my pleasure to introduce today's presenters. First, we are joined by Tammy Flanagan, founder and principal retirement specialist at Retire Federal. Tammy has spent more than 30 years helping federal employees understand and maximize their retirement benefits through individual counseling, training programs, and educational resources. She is one of the most well-recognized and respected experts in federal retirement planning. We're also pleased to welcome Shane Canfield, Chief Executive Officer of WAEPA. Shane brings more than 25 years of executive leadership experience in the employee benefits and nonprofit sectors and has dedicated his career to helping organizations better serve their members and stakeholders. And finally, joining us today is MARC Mancuso, CFP, a financial planner with Ernst Young. Mark has more than 17 years of experience working with federal employees and law enforcement professionals through government financial planning programs, helping them develop strategies for long-term financial security. Today, our speakers will discuss key retirement decisions and common mistakes to avoid, important pre-retirement planning considerations, retirement income strategies, and federal benefits considerations. Thank you again for joining us. And with that, I will turn things over to Tammy Flanagan to begin our program.
Thank you, Casey. Welcome, everyone, and I'm glad everyone could join us today. We're going to do a crash course on retirement planning, it looks like, because we're going to try to cram as much useful information into this hour as we can. So my part of the presentation is going to be to go over some important things to think about with your federal benefits. So go ahead and show us the agenda for that, Casey. So today, in this next 15 minutes or so, I'm going to give you some ideas of what are some of the best things you can do to prepare for retirement. We're going to go over some of the things that require decisions and when to make those decisions. What are the time limits? And then, of course, what are the common mistakes? How can we learn from what others have done? And then I'll try to give you some resources at the end so that if we didn't cover enough, you got some places you can go to learn even more, because education is key. Okay, next slide. So some of the things you can do if you're getting near retirement and you're saying, what can I do to get ready? Well, first and foremost, figure out how much money you're going to have on the date that you've planned to retire. So estimate your retirement benefit by either going to HR and, thankfully, hopefully they can prepare an estimate for you. Or if you know how to do it yourself, run through that and look at not only just the estimated FERS benefit, but also think about what are the things that are going to be withheld from that. Just like your salary, you've got withholdings. So you're going to have withholdings and maybe even a couple of reductions to that retirement gross amount. So it's never the gross amount that matters. It's always the net. That's what we get to spend. Now, in the midst of getting ready to retire, you might assume that everything is already taken care of as far as your service history. But just be sure that all of your past federal service has been documented in your personnel file. It should be an electronic file at this point. And also, if you have any service that wasn't covered by FERS deductions, such as military service or maybe any civilian service that you either took a refund for because of a break in service or you had some temporary service way back when, sometimes you have to pay a deposit or, as some people call it, buy back that service. That can be really valuable to do. Also, when you're choosing the date to retire, the date matters. So when you retire, whether it's today on June 4th, or whether it's June 15th or June 30th, your retirement's not going to commence or begin until July. So why not work until the end of June and then get your salary for the whole month, and you'll still get that first full retirement check for the month of July, and it's not going to be paid to you until August 1st, because just like in the time you're working, you're paid 2 weeks behind. In retirement, those checks come a month behind. So the check you get on the first of the month is for that previous month. Now, in the beginning of that transition from becoming an annuitant after being an employee, there's going to be a transition period where that application leaves your desk, goes to your HR office for processing. They send it to your payroll provider, and ultimately it ends up at the Office of Personnel Management for final adjudication. That takes time. Sometimes it'll take 2 or 3 months if you're lucky. But sometimes, especially recently with all the deferred resignations, it can take up to 6 months and every once in a while even longer. So be prepared for delays. Have some cash on hand to cover your expenses so you don't go into panic mode during those first months of retirement. Okay, next slide, Casey. Okay, what are some of the timing decisions? And I think the most common question I get is, when should I apply for retirement? It would be nice just to walk in one day and say, boy, this is the day I've had enough and I'm leaving, close the business today. And believe me, some people have done that. But ideally, give 60 days, 90 days notice. Maybe in a smaller organization, you can get away with a month's notice. But the more notice you give that you're leaving, the sooner you tell HR that you're separating, the more they can get some of the work done that needs to get finished before you walk out the door. Also, they can help you maybe make some of those decisions or understand some of the benefits if you have questions. So the more lead time you can get, the better that's going to be for you, and also help things go a little smoother along the way. Okay. If you have a postponed retirement, that would be for those of you who want to leave maybe at your minimum retirement age, but you don't have 30 years of service. So we have this category called MRA plus 10. That's going to involve an age penalty. So to avoid that age reduction, you can file for that application later. So you basically resign from federal service and then apply for the benefit later on when you're 60 or 62 years old. Make sure you get that application to OPM at least 31 days before you want that benefit to begin. And if you want to reinstate your insurance, make sure you apply for that benefit to begin before your 62nd birthday. Those are some critical times when you're applying for benefits that you want to make sure you meet. Okay, let's move on to the next one. So another big election you make at retirement is the type of retirement that you want. Do you want a retirement that's just payable during your lifetime, or do you want a retirement benefit that's reduced to provide a survivor benefit? And typically, of course, that survivor benefit would be for your current spouse, although sometimes you might have a former spouse entitled to benefits, or even someone else who might be financially dependent on you. Remember that changes to that election can only be made up or down within the first 30 days of your retirement being finalized. If you have a partial survivor benefit election, or you've elected no survivor benefit, and you change your mind realizing that maybe you should have elected the full benefit, you will have 6 months, 180 days after your retirement's finished, to increase that election back up to the full or maximum survivor annuity. But I warn you, there's a serious penalty with that. So give this decision a lot of thought before you apply for retirement. That way, no changes will be required. Now, if you happen to get married later on after you've retired, you'll have 2 years from the date of that marriage to make an election for your new spouse to receive survivor benefits as well. Remember, that's going to allow them to continue health insurance if you predecease them. Next slide. Another big decision you're going to make, maybe for some of you it's a little later in life, but it'll be the decision of when to file and claim your Social Security retirement benefit. A lot of you might be thinking that if I get that FERS special supplement, that it's going to end when I turn 62, so therefore I apply for my Social Security benefit to begin at 62. But that may not be the best time for you to apply. Everybody has an 8-year window to figure out when is the best time to start my Social Security retirement. Everything pivots around your full retirement age. For most of you, that's going to be age 67. So if you apply early, you're in essence getting a reduced benefit for the rest of your life. If you delay applying past your full retirement age, you're going to get an 8% per year delayed retirement credit added to that full benefit that you've earned. So if you're trying to get a good hedge against the risk of living too long, delay your Social Security claim until you're older. Maybe it's 67 or even as late as age 70, so that for the rest of your life, you're getting the largest benefit possible from Social Security. And you can't outlive that benefit like you might outlive your savings. Next one. Medicare. Now we're talking even later, right? Social Security decisions have to be made starting at age 62, but before you know it, you'll turn 65, and you've got to make a decision of what to do about Medicare. Medicare is health insurance typically for people 65 and older, or sometimes if you encounter a disability, you can get Medicare coverage sooner. The time to think about enrolling in Medicare is at age 65 when you have your initial enrollment period. But some of you might be thinking, why do I need more health insurance when I already have my federal health plan that's going to cover me for the rest of my life? Well, having the combination of Medicare as the primary insurance and having your federal plan take a back seat and pay second, in many cases, that means you'll have zero out-of-pocket medical expenses. Medicare is going to pay first. Typically, they cover about 80% of your healthcare expenses. Many federal employees or federal health benefit plans will cover that remaining 20%, leaving you with no out of pocket. Now, however, the problem is you got to pay for Medicare Part B. So sometimes you want to delay that as long as possible, but there is a late enrollment penalty. There's a general enrollment period every year, but every 12 months that you delay enrollment, you'll pay 10% more for the rest of your life. So the only other time to delay enrollment is if you're still working or your spouse is still working and you're covered under current employment health coverage. That allows you to delay enrollment without a late enrollment penalty if you sign up for Part B, either while that person's still working or within the 8 months following the end of that employment. So when you move from employee to retirement, that's the time to think about signing up for Part B if you're over 65 at the time you retire, or if you're covered under your spouse's health plan who is still working. That can also work. Okay, next slide. Okay, it is important to understand the calculation. I know some of us are thinking, oh, why do I have to do that? My agency's going to take care of it, then OPM is going to do the final numbers. They have all the information, right? So there shouldn't be any mistakes. Well, remember that your retirement benefit is based on your length of service. Make sure, as I said before, that all of your service has been accounted for, documented, you've paid into FERS for it, or CSRS if you happen to be under the old system, because sometimes I've seen errors in that service calculation. I had an employee one time who got their retirement benefit back from OPM, and they called me in a panic. They said, I don't think this is right, but this is what I'm getting. And it was way less than what we had talked about. What had happened was that person had worked part-time for part of their career. Well, part-time doesn't affect eligibility, but it does affect the calculation. In addition, they were missing some of their federal service history. So without having saved all the documentation of that career, we wouldn't have been able to fix that. So it's important that you realize if something doesn't look right. And then secondly, it's important that you've saved all the documentation so you can argue the point that you think something is wrong. So the calculation, as you can see here, is pretty simple. 1% of your high 3 times your years and months of service, or if you're over 62 with more than 20 years, you get a 10% bonus. Or if you're retiring under the law enforcement provisions of FERS, or if you're a firefighter or air traffic controller, you get this benefit of 1.7% times the first 20 years, and then 1% of everything else. So that's the basic formula, but it is important to make sure that we're using the correct amount of service, that you're retiring on the date that you've estimated the retirement for, and that you understand that your high 3 average salary is going to be a little less than your final pay rate. So have a better understanding of how that works will help you better prepare for that retirement final estimate. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, next, we want to think about the value of that survivor benefits. How many times have I talked to an employee who says, I don't want to take that 10% reduction. That's a pretty big reduction to provide a benefit for my spouse. And possibly we're both going to die at the same time, or my spouse might predecease me. So why do I need to do this? Why couldn't I just let them live on their retirement benefits and I'll live on mine and we'll go happily ever after? Well, first of all, leaving a survivor benefit to a non-federal spouse allows them to continue health benefits should you predecease them. Also, while there's two of you, you're living on two Social Security checks, maybe two pensions, and maybe two sets of retirement savings. When there's one of you, meaning that one spouse has predeceased the other, one of those Social Security checks is going to go away. And if you're both getting a pension, one of you might now be getting a survivor annuity or none from the other spouse. And if somebody needed long-term care, some of those retirement savings may have been drastically depleted. So keep in mind the value both financially as well as in regard to health insurance to make that election with that survivor benefit. Also, you have beneficiary designations that follow you into retirement. If something changes, you get married or go through a divorce or acquire another child later in life, make sure you update those beneficiary forms so the right people that you intend to get those benefits are paid. Now, also, I said before about your gross annuity being affected by certain reductions, such as the election of part-time service or the survivor benefit election. And then also withholdings. Out of that basic government pension, you're going to have taxes for federal and maybe even state income tax withheld. And then your insurance premiums, your health insurance, life insurance, dental, vision, and long-term care all come out on a monthly basis from that check. So be prepared for that gross amount to be quite a bit different from the net payment you're going to eventually receive. Don't be surprised. Next slide, please. Cost of living adjustments help maintain the buying power of your retirement. For most FERS retirees, that COLA doesn't kick in until you're 62. So if you're taking retirement at age 57, that's 5 years of level payments with no cost of living. Be prepared for that if you decide to retire at a younger age. If you're retiring under law enforcement or any of the special provisions of FERS, there's an exception to that delayed COLA. You'll start receiving immediate cost of living adjustments in the first year of retirement. But even still, the FERS cost of living adjustment is sometimes referred to as a diet COLA, meaning that if inflation is running 3% or higher, as it is so far this year, your cost of living adjustment will be adjusted 1% less. So over time, that FERS basic benefit will lose some buying power. So make sure you save some of those retirement savings for later in life. Next slide, please. FEHB and FEGLI mistakes. Make sure that you have 5 years of coverage under both of those insurance benefits if you intend to carry those into retirement. You can make elections at retirement for how much of that life insurance you want to keep, and you can also change your health insurance during any open season after retirement. Also, think seriously about Medicare Part B and the benefits that that will provide, not just at age 65, but over the next chapter of your life, which could last 30 or more years after you turn 65. So give that some serious consideration as well. And also prepare for long-term care. Whether you purchase insurance or just think about what you're doing to manage how you're going to live should things not be as comfortable as they are today, give long-term care planning some attention. Next slide, please. Some people will retire too soon. I've seen a lot of this last year during the deferred resignation where people are so surprised when they see how little is left in their FERS basic benefit after taxes and insurance are withheld. Obviously, they didn't understand the net value of that benefit, and many of those folks are now looking for part-time jobs or ways to return to federal service. So be sure to understand how much money you're going to have in retirement so that you can afford to retire and live comfortably. But then on the other side of the coin, I've seen people who work too long and they miss out on some of those great years of retirement where you could be doing travel or volunteering somewhere or just having another fun job that's not quite as stressful as what you're doing now. So find that sweet spot of where's the best time for you to retire. Next slide, please. Here's some resources for you because I know I covered these last 12 slides in a pretty quick manner. I didn't give you a whole lot of meat there. So to get some potatoes with that meat, you can check out opm.gov, click on the retirement tab or the insurance tab, and you'll find a lot of information relevant to planning for your retirement. Same thing with socialsecurity.gov. You can even apply for benefits and for Medicare at Social Security's website. And of course, the thrift savings plan, that's where you keep your TSP money in your TSP account. So you should be probably most familiar with tsp.gov throughout your career. Well, that's all I've got for you today. So thanks again, and I'll turn it back over to Casey.
Great, Tammy. Thank you so much. I see several people have left questions for us. We encourage those, keep them coming. And a reminder, we will revisit those in the last 15 minutes. So with that, I am thrilled to turn it over to Shane with WAEPA.
Hello, everyone. For those of you not familiar with WAEPA, we are 83 years old. We principally provide life and health related products to federal government workers, current and former. If you leave federal service, you can still apply for WAEPA. 50,000 members, over 40,000 insured. So it's very popular. It's growing. We are a nonprofit. And that does make a difference in how we price our product, how we operate the business. We look at long-term success for our members. Let me give you two real-life examples. Every year, we analyze our premium received and our reserves, and we frequently attach refund return premium to the entire membership. That last year was 10%. It's not guaranteed. But in addition to being about 10% less than FEGLI, we return premium most years, most meaning 25 of the last 26. And then there are a couple of times in recent history where the shutdown went a long time. We had people missing paychecks. It was a very difficult time. So in 2019, and then again last year, we did a premium forgiveness, which was we didn't charge premium, wasn't a loan. We just forgave premium for the entire membership, 44,000 insureds. So that's one example of what we do. We do have a board of directors who are all senior executive federal employees. So WAEPA is very proud of this long history and being a part of the federal government community as well for 83 years. So next slide, please. So the format, if we could go one more. The format I'm going to do, because we don't have much time, is I'll give you some real life examples. I think that's a good way to approach this. So retirement does change your income structure, obviously. And some of the ways you think about life insurance are affected by how much money you're making. So Tammy just talked about, your federal retirement, you've got Social Security, all of the different places you get income versus the needs that you have for protection for your loved one or your family if you're not here. So we have a lot of people who get to retirement age and they look at their life insurance, for example, and they reassess it. Your income has changed dramatically. Hopefully, your debt structure has changed, meaning life insurance is generally designed to cover lost future income. That's a big one that people forget about. So if you're in your 40s, 50s, 60s, you pass away, your spouse isn't going to get the benefit of that income into your family. And then debt. That's the one that everybody thinks about. So that combination of things really starts to paint a picture. How much life insurance do I need? And life insurance, most of it, whole life is different. We're term life. Talk about that in a minute. It's not designed necessarily to be a builder of wealth for next generations. Life insurance is really designed to cover a need at the time, and that need changes over time. So we do have a lot of people that get to retirement age and they're wondering what to do. We'll talk to them. And if they want to keep the insurance, we encourage it. You can still keep your coverage beyond in retirement, but you may need less. And so what we'll frequently do is reduce the amount of coverage that people have. It reduces the amount you pay for it. And it's also quite possible you just don't need it anymore. So the needs change over time. There's no one formula. I would suggest you need to think about those basic factors. If you need a financial planner, EY is on here. We'll talk a little bit about that in a bit. We have calculators on our website, but clearly life needs do change over time. Coverage costs change over time. I'm going to talk about something we hear a lot. I'll just get ahead of this one. We are term life insurance. In fact, FEGLI and WAEPA's premium structure is the same, which means it's age banded. So you pay one rate, 40 to 45, another rate, 46 to 50, and so on. Term insurance is designed to cover risk in the moment, and it doesn't provide any additional benefits at all. That's one of the reasons why it costs so much less than, say, whole life insurance. But as you get older, the risk of you passing away increases. And so the premium goes up. And all term insurance is this way, all of it. But some people are surprised when they get to 65, 70. Yeah, the premium goes up a lot. And that's because the risk of the person passing away goes up. This is where you get back to your personal financial planning. You may have less need for it. The premium is going up. Those two factors come together, and you may just reduce your coverage to save money, or just simply let it go. There's no one right answer to this question, but it's really worth spending some time thinking about and talking to a financial planner about. The next slide, please. So FEGLI is it's a great plan. It's a little bit different than WAEPA in that it's only for federal employees, obviously, but it's expensive. You can take some of it into retirement under certain circumstances. Tammy mentioned OPM. I would encourage you to go to the OPM website and look into the circumstances by which you can take it, the amount of coverage you can take with you, and then I would say compare it to WAEPA and also compare it to the open market. If you still have a need for life insurance in retirement, maybe your house, if you have a mortgage and it's not paid, not everybody pays off their mortgage by the time they retire. Your needs will be very different than somebody who does not have a mortgage. So spend some time with that one. The FEGLI plan is a good plan. I will tell you the WAEPA plan is, in my opinion, it's stronger. It has more limits, higher limits. The pricing is less than FEGLI, and we're backed by New York Life Insurance, arguably the strongest life insurance company in the country. So the coverage does reduce in retirement. There's a formula for that. Figure that out. It may be completely sufficient just to continue with FEGLI. You may have that option, and you still may need a supplemental plan that you're going to have to think it through one piece at a time. And again, if you've got questions, we're going to talk about retirement planning here in a minute at the individual level. So the next slide, please. Okay. Casey, I apologize. My clock is not really working. How much time do I have left? I don't know. If somebody could let me know, that'd be great. I don't want to go over.
It is currently, it's 1:32. Hypothetically, we'd start questions at 1:45, but we have some more time since folks are staying on.
Okay, I will make this very brief. We've already talked about retirement needs for life insurance change just pay attention to that. Your world will change rather dramatically on many different fronts. Your financial needs are another. The next page, please. Supplemental coverage. I think you need to look at a couple different things. The cost, how much does it go up? Remember, I told you it goes up. All term life insurance does that. Where does it get to the point where it's too painful, balanced against what you do or don't need? Those same considerations happen if you carry FEGLI into retirement as well. And then conversion considerations are an interesting one. So when you leave an employer plan, most FEGLI, most of them offer you a short window where you can, without medical underwriting, convert to an individual life insurance policy. If you've left FEGLI, you know that you've got one of the letters. We do that too. So the immediate consideration is it's dramatically more expensive. Dramatically more expensive. And you will see that if you check that out. The reason is that employer coverage stops usually because people are retiring and or moving on to another career, but they don't need that coverage anymore. The only people who take it are those that really need it, which is wonderful that they have that option. But what that means is the number of people taking it are high risk. And so those premiums go up quite a bit. The next slide, please. We do have a lot of programs here available. I won't go through all of them, but one of them is Ernst Young, and I'll do a lead-in for Mark in a second and talk to you about what that is. But I would next slide, please. We've talked about all these pieces. Do keep in mind, WAEPA, we are a nonprofit. We're not making money on any of this stuff because nonprofits aren't designed to make profit. So everything that we collect in terms of premium goes to pay claims or the administration of the plan. It's been that way for over 80 years. We have there's no other way that WAEPA looks at this. One of the things that we do for members, and you don't have to buy insurance to take advantage of this. You can join WAEPA, not buy the insurance, but you can take advantage of EY and their planning, financial planning organization. This is 100% confidential. We don't have any information about anybody. You can ask them individual questions. You can do a full-blown financial plan. It's fee-based. They don't sell anything, so they're not looking to make commission. They're not even recommending WAEPA per se, if life insurance is part of that conversation. It's completely independent. They have their own portal. It's very secure. So it doesn't cost anything to be a member. This is another example of being a nonprofit. A for-profit company would never do something like this. If you did a full-blown financial plan on the street, you'd be paying, I don't know, $1,000 or more. If you want to go that route, it's really good. I have done it. A lot of our staff have done it. We did that early on. We've been doing this program for years. It's really powerful, and it doesn't cost anything. It's a benefit of being a member. So I'm going to leave it there, Casey.
Okay, great. Shane, thank you so much. Again, keep the questions coming. I see Tammy is answering some of them in real time. Thank you, Tammy. And with that, I am very happy to turn it over to Mark with Ernst Young. And Mark, you are on mute.
The classic double mute. Sorry, guys. You can hear me now, right? So, okay, I have a mute on my headset because I work in a call center, right? So, okay, guys, thank you for having me, and thank you to Shane for that great lead-in. I'm going to go through my material a little more quickly so that we have time to answer all of your questions, which I think is what we really want to get to today. But just to put a pin in what Shane was telling you all there, WAEPA does have a relationship with EY, and we do provide full financial planning services to WAEPA members. And it is completely separate, confidential. We don't sell any products, but we can help you evaluate any of your insurance or retirement needs. So if you do have, we'll help you determine how much life insurance you might need in retirement, and then what product and coverage amount is appropriate for you, and we'll help you go ahead and implement that. So a really nice connection, and that's provided to you. WAEPA pays for it, but you all don't. Any members don't pay for it directly. So that's nice. Okay, so my section of this presentation is focusing on planning for retirement more on a high level, right? So it's not just about the particulars that of your work situation. It's about saving money. It's about being prepared. It's about coordinating with your spouse or others. And so we're going to go ahead and walk through some of those key concepts today. And the first one starts with a 6-step process. So your chances of achieving your goals are a lot greater if you follow a retirement planning process built around these steps. So what are your goals? What do you want? What do you want in retirement? When do you want a retirement? And what is the lifestyle that you want to lead in retirement? I'll tell you, my dad recently retired, and we had to send him back to work because he didn't know what he was going to do all day, and he was driving everybody crazy. So we sent him back to work. He could have volunteered, right? There's a number of different options that we should all be thinking about. Okay, what do you need? How much money are you going to need to retirement, and when are you going to do that with what lifestyle? My mom wants to travel the world. Well, she's going to need a significantly more money in the bank than my dad, who's perfectly happy staying at home and thankfully, fixing my broken deck boards when they occur. Okay. So what will you have? What will you need? And then is there a gap in between those two? And if you do have a gap, what can we do to close that gap? And that's kind of where we come in, helping you figure out how to close the gap and how do you stay on track, and then helping you monitor retirement as we go. Okay. So why is this particular to federal employees on the next slide here? So you all face unique circumstances. The retirement plan we know has multiple components, as Tammy is expressed to us earlier. There's some complex pension and other rules, special provisions for certain groups, and then there's unique distribution and tax implications. So knowing when and how to claim benefits is crucial, because a small timing decision can permanently reduce those benefits. And health insurance is also a major driver, and mistakes can result in a permanent loss of eligibility. So, like the other presenters had mentioned, it's really important to make sure you understand these benefits, and that we have a clear outline of the timing. Okay, so the next slide is just kind of a basic retirement spending example. So you can kind of see how these expenses will change, or can change over time. Some notable right changes. You're not saving for retirement when you're in retirement in general. Maybe you have a special goal, but generally most of our savings is done at that point. You can see here, and we'd like to go through this exercise with you, right? Like my entertainment budget would be significantly more increased than that in retirement. And it's just really important to differentiate between your needs and your wants, right? So we want certain things, but we focus on our needs first, and we'll kind of talk about that income model in a couple slides here. And your spending patterns change over time, so just understand that it's this isn't going to be the same month to month or year to year necessarily. Okay, so now this next slide here builds, this chart builds. So it starts with these go-go years, which is when we're first retired and we think we're going to be so active. We're going to travel like my mom. We're going to play pickleball like my aunt, right? We're going to go out to, we're going to go out with our friends. And your income needs are typically higher than they are other times. So you should plan for this so we don't have what we call spending shock, right? Then we have these slow go years. So now we're like, okay, we did all our travel. Now we want to stay close at home. Maybe we want to go and play with our grandkids a little bit more. We don't have as many expensive hobbies. And those necessary expenses tend to decline as well. So as you get older, we tend not to go as far in our cars. We tend not to go out to eat dinner as often. We sometimes we downsize our home, right? And then the last section here are these no-go years. So these no-go years are when life slows down a little bit more, right? So it could be a greater need for healthcare, possibly assisted living, long-term care. This actually can mean that your income needs to be the highest, right? Because I think we know that those healthcare expenses, those long-term care expenses can be really, really high. And that's where we can help you evaluate life insurance, long-term care insurance, to other, right? Are there ways to make sure that we're prepared for the potential of this situation happening? Okay. So now let's take a look at those building blocks I was talking about. So we try to, you try to match up your fixed income, such as Social Security, and if you have a monthly pension benefit, to cover your necessary expenses, housing, food, taxes, right? If those things work out to plan, then regardless of what happens to your investment nest egg, you won't have to eat cat food, right? Is usually how I put it. So you have your necessary expenses covered. Now, plenty of us are not going to have enough fixed income to cover all of our necessary expenses. That's not a problem. You can use a portion of your invested assets to fund an annuity potentially that, again, we can help you evaluate to provide you with monthly income. You can also elect an annuity distribution option. So that's like a periodic distribution option for your 40 for your assets that may be in your, in your thrift plan, in a 401k, or in an IRA. All right, and then once we've taken care of all of those matters, now we can talk about investment income being used for discretionary expenses like that new I was going to say Lamborghini, maybe a Tesla is a little more realistic for some of us. So the model, right, that we're looking at here gives you some flexibility to alter those distributions and your lifestyle depending on investment performance, but making sure that your needs are met, which is key. Um, and then you really want to consider having sufficient life insurance to supplement your spouse's needs at death and for the rest of their life. So beneficiaries, sometimes have choices as far as benefits are concerned, but they may need a lump sum of money, as Shane mentioned, to pay off a mortgage or other things. Okay. So, and this is just showing us that we have tools on this next slide, that we have calculators that can help you. So we want to encourage you to work with a financial professional to use planning tools that are available to you, either through us and the relationship with WAEPA, through your bank, through your brokerage house. This is called the Retirement Pension Planner Calculator, and you can enter goals, assets, assumptions, and the tool will help you determine if you're on track. And we can always run that for you. So insurance planning is often part of addressing the potential gaps, right? So if you have a gap, insurance is where we can cover the gap. Okay, so on the next slide here, just going through why insurance is important. So as Shane mentioned, it is important throughout retirement, but you may have limitations on the employer-based coverage. So you want to make sure that if you are converting it after you leave employment, that it's meeting your needs. Okay, so those limitations, they're reinforced by the importance of planning while you're still employed. By the time we retire, we want all of these I's dotted and T's crossed. So on the next slide here, there's a few more of these examples of why it's important. So insurability isn't necessarily guaranteed later in life. Your health conditions can worsen, so it's really important to make sure that you are assessing that now. Okay, so these are the options that you have for kind of easing yourself from your current job into retirement. Maybe you'll see if they'll let you work part-time. Maybe you'll volunteer. Maybe you'll go get a different job. I'm going to go make sandwiches in a deli. That's what I want to do. I did that as a teenager, and I really love making sandwiches. So maybe we'll buy a little lunch net or something. Um, there are social benefits to easing into retirement. It's going to help you gradually give yourself time to build that network to help you keep yourself busy and active throughout retirement. And maybe you're going to learn new hobbies or activities that you didn't know you wanted to do. And there's psychological benefits. So you're not feeling depressed, aimless, like you don't have a purpose anymore, right? We want to make sure that we're transitioning from our working life's achievements to now what can we achieve in retirement. And that also helps promote better physical health. So give yourself a chance to test the retirement costs and your actual readiness, and you're going to feel better prepared to retire with confidence. Okay, so retirement planning is a lifelong process. So just because you have enough to retire, that's not okay, we're great, we're good to go. Yeah, we can go to the next slide. So even when we're on the last leg of the retirement race, you're going to need some degree of assistance from professionals. So there's investment planning, distribution planning, specialists like Tammy who know about all your benefits. You might need a tax professional to help you determine, do you need to make quarterly payments? And we all need estate planning. So, either, finding some sort of a lawyer or estate planning professional is key to make sure that you're covered in regards to a will, powers of attorney, any of those documents. Okay, so what types of financial professionals should you consider? So these are the different types of professionals and where you can get them. If you're a WAEPA member, no need to go to cfp.net. You can call me. Here's of where you can find accountants, life insurance agents, estate lawyers, referrals from friends and family, from your team, from your employer. Those are all great places to start. It's always, it's always very beneficial to have somebody else's experience when you're determining who you'd like to use for your own. All right, Casey, 2 more minutes and I'm going to wrap it up. So this is what we do here. So this is an overview of our services. So we offer really three components to our services. One is the phone line, so the contact center. So that's when we have a conversation with myself, with one of our credentialed planners. Again, we don't sell any products and we don't share any of the specifics with your employer. So it's really it's really a nice confidential service that's only meant for what's best for you and your family. We do have a website with that Shane alluded to. It's got 102 calculators, a bunch of guided goals, articles. There's an app associated with it. You can message your planner. And then we do group learning activities, such as we host our own monthly webinars, and then one's hosted by other entities like Shaw, Bradford, and Roth today. So. Okay, and then on our last slide here, this is just some of these key takeaways here. So here's some I wanted to give you some action steps, right? We're always about actioning your plan. So finalize these numbers or finalize your goals and we'll run the numbers with you. Develop a plan to transition. The spending is one of the most important things. Understanding how much you want to spend in retirement, that's key. Helping determine when to take your Social Security or your other benefits. Are your investments allocated appropriately for retirement? And then taxes, healthcare, your survivors, and then your team of professionals. Okay, I know I spoke really fast. Good thing you guys you're all going to get this reference material to take a look at, and then of course we're hanging around to answer your questions.
Great. Mark, thank you so much. And thank you for all the presenters. It is 1:50, so we have over 10 minutes for questions. So presenters, I think based on the amount of timing we have, I think let's just go in order of the questions that are remaining. I know that some questions were answered along the way. So let's just take these one by one, and then when we're in the last few minutes, we'll pick and choose if we get to that point. So question number one, I believe this would be for Tammy, but anyone speak up. I imagine you'll know if this came on your presentation time. Can the survivor beneficiary be a child, or does it need to be a spouse?
Yeah, so I will take that one because when you're electing survivor benefits at retirement, it's typically going to be for your spouse. However, there is an option for something called making an insurable interest election. However, I wouldn't necessarily recommend you name a child for that because the cost of that can be anywhere from a 10% up to a 40% reduction to your FERS benefit. So the younger the person is from your age, the higher that reduction is. I normally don't see that option used for a child. It's typically used when you have a couple who's living in a committed relationship, but they're not married. They can leave a survivor benefit. So just consider your children where you can leave them as beneficiaries, perhaps for your TSP account, or maybe your FEGLI or WAEPA life insurance, or even your FERS last retirement check and any money left in the FERS contribution account. But I wouldn't necessarily recommend doing that for a child, the survivor benefit.
Great.
I'll
Thank
throw
you.
one comment in here that may not be applicable to everybody, of course, but we have a special needs child, and he's in his 30s, and he requires quite a bit. Um, we have a special needs trust drawn up by an attorney. It was all very particularly designed for him. So if you have any things which don't fall into normal planning circumstances, you really need to pay attention to that now. It doesn't matter how old you are. Get this plan in place if you want to make sure that that person is well taken care of.
Great, great advice.
Great. Thank you, Shane. Thank you, Tammy. Next question, and I apologize if I mispronounce any of the acronyms, but can RI Fed, oh, sorry, my screen just, can RI Fed 72T only the traditional part of their TSP if one has both Roth and traditional TSP, or must one use the whole TSP balance?
You want to take that one, Mark?
I'm sorry, one more time, Casey.
Okay. Can RI Fed 72T only the traditional part of their TSP if one has both
Oh, I
Roth?
found it. I'm sorry. Yeah, I got you. I got you. Okay, so the 72T, so the 72T is referring to the exemptions to the 10% penalty. So if you're younger than age 59 and a half and you take money out of your retirement plan, there may be a penalty. There may be a penalty associated with that. The answer is to avoid that penalty, you can meet a number of exceptions. And the question is, does this only apply to the pre-tax portion or does it apply to the Roth portion? It applies to both. There's never a penalty on your contributions. What we're talking about is the earnings on those Roth contributions that you could avoid the penalty if you meet one of those exceptions. Thanks, Casey. That's the answer.
Perfect. All right. I'm going to take, this was a comment and a question, so I'm going to start it here. FHLB has maximum out of pocket while working as a Fed that apply. Does this not hold true in retirement?
You're talking about the health insurance, FEHB or FEGLI?
It's in the chat, it's FHLB. If Paul, if you could send a clarifying
It sounds like health benefits.
Yeah.
Because
it was
I think I do understand.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I understand the question because I get that a lot, where people want to know that if I take Medicare, that's going to avoid a lot of out-of-pocket expenses. But then if I take Medicare, I have to pay for Part B. And some of our retirees actually have very good income, which has a double-edged sword because that good income means you're going to pay more for Part B due to the income-related monthly adjustment amounts. So is it okay not to take Part B and just pay those out-of-pocket expenses out of pocket? Or should I take Part B, bite the bullet, pay me now, and then I avoid those out-of-pocket expenses later? So it really is a decision of either pay me now, meaning take Part B and just take it and pay for it, and then avoid your later on in life expenses, or pay me later. Don't take Part B, save all that money now while you're healthy, but be prepared later in life that you're going to have to pay out-of-pocket expenses up to that catastrophic cap, which can be a lot different from one plan to the other. I've seen one plan that has a catastrophic limit of $20,000 and out of network $24,000, which can be a whole lot more expensive than paying for Medicare Part B. So make your choice carefully, consider the pros and cons of both. And I will tell you that Medicare Part B decision is one of the hardest and most confusing things that retirees face. So do a lot of homework before you make your final decision.
Okay, I'm going to go straight into another question, and I'm not sure if you answered it or someone said, I'm still confused what Medicare Part B provides if you have Medicare A and FEHB, BC, BS Basic. Can you explain or clarify?
Yeah, so Medicare covers much of the same things that your federal health plan covers. It covers outpatient care, doctor visits, durable medical equipment, anything that falls into the realm of medically necessary care. So the big question is, why do I need both? Why do I need to continue FEHB and then add Medicare? Well, it's because the two will work together. Think of your federal health plan working as either a Medicare supplement, like people in the private sector have, or it can also work as a Medicare Advantage plan, giving you all those extra perks like gym membership and meal delivery and a reduction in your Part B premium. So each federal health plan is going to have a section on its website to explain what those benefits are when you turn 65. So whether you're looking at Blue Cross or GEHA or Aetna, every family of plans or every plan company has one of the plans, or maybe more than one in some cases, that really works best with Medicare, and it will outline that on their website. So I would encourage you to look at that. Also, we do webinars on Medicare and FEHB that we take an hour and sometimes 2 hours to explain those differences. So it is confusing and it's a bit complicated. So do a lot of homework before you make your decision.
Great. Thank you, Tammy. And I see some other questions are getting answered. So now moving on, Connie asked, just confirming that when I need to add my spouse to my health insurance, he is not on right now as his employer provides his insurance. I was told that I could enroll him during the open enrollment period the year before I retire, and he would be covered in retirement, correct?
Yeah, so you can add a spouse, you can add a family member, whether it's a spouse or a child, to your health plan when there's a qualifying life event, which in this case would be when your husband stops working and he loses his employer plan, you can pick him up then. Or you can, like you said, any open season. However, here's the catch. Let's say something happens, unfortunately, something happens to you and you die in a self-only plan. Your surviving spouse cannot enroll themselves. So you don't have to enroll your spouse before you retire, but you have to enroll your spouse before you die, which is a little harder to predict. So just beware that there is that little caution flag I'm throwing up that if you do have self-only coverage, your spouse won't be covered unless you enroll them yourself. They can't enroll themselves later.
Thank you, Tammy. Next question. Can you confirm sick leave that is converted into time for annuity computation? Can it also be used to reach the FERS 1.1 computation?
Yes, yes to both. So yes, your unused sick leave balance is converted to service for only calculation purposes, not eligibility. However, if you have, let's say, 19 and a half years of service and you're age 62, and you have over 1,000 hours of sick leave saved up, which would convert to about 6 months credit, that's going to give you the 20 years necessary to qualify for the 1.1%. That's not an eligibility rule because at age 62, you only have to have 5 years of service to retire. That's more of an impact on the calculation, which is why the sick leave can be used to meet that 20-year requirement.
Thank you. Next question. Are they requiring 30 years service now to retire? When they were paying people to leave, I felt that there was an option for 25 years. Is that gone now?
Yeah, so there are different rules for different ways to retire. So for regular retirement where you don't need any special authority, typically the youngest you can retire is 57 unless you fall into law enforcement or firefighter or some other special category. Last year, during the deferred resignation, most agencies were offering VERA, Voluntary Early Retirement Authority. That gave employees the option to retire as young as age 50 if they had 20 years of service, or at any age, even younger than age 50 if they had 25 years of service. But remember, the last letter in that acronym is A for authority. So you can't just volunteer to retire early unless your agency is actually offering a VERA.
Thank you. And I am going to just flag for everyone, we are at past the hour mark. It is 2:01. Thank you everyone for joining. Our presenters are going to stay on for another 9 minutes to continue going through these questions. As a reminder, the recording will be distributed to everyone who registered. So if you had colleagues that could not join today, they will get a copy of the recording and everyone will get copies of the slide deck as well. So turning it back to questions. How do I become a WAEPA member without purchasing the insurance?
We're going to have to get that to you. I saw that question and I thought, holy buckets, we've updated our website. I don't know the exact link, but it is on there, and I will supply that. Great question.
Great, thank you. I have made a note for that, that we will include that in the follow-up material we're sending out to members or registrants.
Yep.
All right. What are the pros and cons of going the FEHB only route versus Medicare B only, or taking both, which can be very expensive with means testing?
Yeah. Yeah, I guess I'll take that one as well, because you can do either one. Under FEHB, there's no requirement that you pick up Medicare Part B. Your FEHB plan will cover you for the rest of your life as long as you're eligible to carry it into retirement. However, having said that, there are benefits to adding Medicare Part B. If you're going to pay just the standard premium, meaning that you're in the income level that's under, I think it's 109,000 if you file a single tax return, or under 218,000 if you file a joint return, I can very easily show you how Medicare is going to save you money. If you're in those higher IRMA brackets, then it's 6 of one and half a dozen of the other. So if you're going to be paying $300, $400, $500 a month for Medicare per spouse, that can get pretty pricey. And as long as you're prepared to pay more out of pocket later in life, then I'm okay with you not taking Part B. But there are benefits to having it for sure.
Thank you, Tammy. Next question. Can you retire at 62 with 15 years of service, and what would the penalty be?
Sure, you can retire with 62 with 5 years of service and there's no penalty. So the way your benefit is calculated, however, is based on your length of service. So 5 years of service would get you 5% of your high three, where 15 years of service would get you 15% of your high three. So the more service you have, the better. And then, of course, don't forget to add in your Social Security income and any income you can make out of your TSP investments.
Great. Thank you. Okay, this is a comment. One more time. Does the survivor's benefits include health and life insurance benefits?
The survivor annuity benefit will allow a surviving spouse to continue federal health insurance as long as you were covering them on the date of your death. As far as life insurance goes, you're the beneficiary for your spouse's family coverage. So if you die first, that goes away. If you die first, your life insurance, whether it's FEGLI or WAEPA, you can certainly make your spouse, and typically would make your spouse, the beneficiary, but they wouldn't continue that life insurance in retirement. Although Shane can probably talk about spouses who carry WAEPA individually, right?
Yes, we have about 6,000 people in that category. You can either be a dependent with a primary coverage for the employee, but the nonprofit regulations do allow, and we allow or have the ability to buy your own policy, and as a spouse, there are some pros and cons to that. If you would call our office, they can walk you through it. There's also some information on the website. But Tammy, we have 6,000 people in that category, so it is a popular option. No, it's not a majority, but it's a lot. And the principal reason is you can get more coverage than you can as a dependent.
Yeah, see, the family coverage under FEGLI is only run through the employee. So they can't carry that family coverage if you're not here anymore. So that's a benefit to WAEPA for sure.
Yeah, and you can take it into retirement. You can still apply. The eligibility does not change when somebody retires or leaves federal service for any reason. So that's another plus as well. And those spousal benefits, the spousal ability to buy their own policy doesn't change either. So even if you left federal service, you can still take advantage of it.
Can I ask you a quick question, Shane? Can former federal employees purchase WAEPA coverage, or do you have to be a current employee or a retiree to purchase it?
Yeah, we do allow former federal employees to purchase it now. We did go to the IRS and we went back and forth and said we would like to be able to do this. We submitted a formal request and they agreed with us. That was 3 years ago.
Great.
So you don't lose your eligibility if you leave federal service, which is really cool. It
Good
opens
to
up
know.
this plan to the entire market because if you're shopping for open market shopping for life insurance, that leaves this one as an option.
Yeah.
Where you're right, most no employer plans don't work that way for anybody. If you work at
No.
Ford Motor and you retire, you leave, you can't go in later
Mm.
and say, "Oh, well, I used to work at Ford. I want in the plan." They're not set up that way. But we're a special case. So.
Yeah. Neither is Fegley, right?
Right, right. And there's nothing good or bad about that. It's just the
No, it's just
nature
the
of
way it
of the
is.
way the plans are designed. So
Mhm.
we're different.
Thank you. We've got time for a couple more. Is it possible to stop working for the federal government before you are 62, but with 20 years of service? Um, sorry about that. As questions get answered, it changes my screen. Okay. Is it possible to stop working for the federal government before you were 62, but with 20 years of service, and then delay your retirement payments until after you are 62 to get the 1.1 multiplier?
No, good try, but that won't work. To get the 1.1% multiplier, you have to retire at age 62 or later. So taking a deferred annuity is not going to do it, or even postponing a full annuity will not do it. So you have to work until you're 62 or older.
Okay. Thank you. Do you have to purchase WAEPA insurance to use EY's planning service?
No, you don't. You can be no, and we have quite a few people who do that. We have 7 or 8 thousand people who don't buy any product from us. They just join. It's no cost to join to take advantage of one of the many different things that we offer. So I would encourage you to look at the website and recognize you don't have to buy life insurance to get into this. This is part of being a nonprofit. We're an association, a nonprofit association for federal employees, um, current and former. And if I could jump in, Casey, there was a great question for Mark in there
Yes.
about being a fiduciary. I'd love to give him a chance to talk to that. And the reason I say that is, oh my goodness, the radio is full of ads for companies now calling themselves fiduciaries. It's a legitimate question. But Mark, if we could ask Mark to address that.
Yeah, sure. And I did post it. I found the official answer. Okay, so we do have the official answer is EY through Ernst Young Advisors LLP is registered with the SEC as an investment advisor, and therefore all of our financial planners as registered investment advisor representatives are currently held to a fiduciary standard under the Investment Advisors Act of 1940. SEC registration also enables our planners to provide expanded investment education, including personalized asset allocation guidance. And expanded investment education also means that all of our CFPs, including myself, are held to the fiduciary standard under the CFP Board's Code of Ethics and Standards. So basically, yeah, we're doubled up, the CFP and the SEC, both. We have fiduciary responsibilities to both. So yes.
I would encourage everybody on this call, no matter how old you are or whether retirement is thinking, take advantage of this service. I will give you one um, piece of information. It's a lot of work, but it's a lot of work no matter where you go. If you pay for somebody, either at an investment house, Fidelity, for example, they would do this for free, but along the way, they're going to try to sell you something. But that's not at all this model. They're not selling anything. It's strictly a plan and advice. It's really good. It's really detailed. You don't have to go through the whole thing. If you just have a question about college savings or what am I going to do with my house in retirement, you can ask individual questions, but it's really an amazing process, and I'm just so impressed. And we
Thanks,
designed it
Shane.
so that,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, it's
well, it
great.
really is. It's
Yeah, it's
excellent.
great. Yeah, and we like working here because we don't sell any products too, right? So if you think about, we don't have sales goals, so it's a lot better for us to work here also. So we like it too. And for someone like yourself in your situation, special needs kid, all that stuff, we're really sensitive to those individual situations and like to work with them, work through them with you.
Yeah, I'll throw in something there too, because I get a lot of questions that really are financial planning questions. And I always stay in my lane. I'm like, I'm a benefit specialist. And so I tell my clients when I work with individuals, I say, once we're finished and you have a better understanding of your benefits, I really suggest, based on this $1 million you have in your thrift and based on these tax questions you have, you really need to see a financial advisor because that service you provide is priceless, really. It really helps make decisions a lot easier when you can bounce it off somebody who understands those rules.
Yeah, thank you both. Yeah, I mean, and as Shane said, the plan can cost $1,000, $1,500. It's 350 an hour individually, right? So, and you all don't pay for any of that. So it's a nice benefit.
All right. Well, thank you all so much. It is 2:13. I want to thank again everyone who joined today. Big thank you to our presenters. If you all want to take just a quick moment each, any final closing words, thoughts? I know there are questions that we couldn't answer. I am so sorry we weren't able to get to all of these questions, but really appreciate how your thoughtful attention to this webinar and asking such thoughtful questions in response. But with that, speakers, closing thoughts,
Okay,
comments?
since I was first, I'll go ahead and start. I just wanted to thank Shaw, Bransford, and Roth, and Deborah in particular for inviting me to be on this panel. I felt it was an honor to be asked, and I'm happy to be able to present to so many of your listeners and readers of your publications. So you guys do a great service. Hope these people don't need your other services for legal help, but you do a great job there too.
Thank you.
And I'll throw in just the fact that everybody is on this call, excuse me, and paying attention to this. I can't remember if it was Tammy or Mark said some of the anxiety around not knowing is simply because we haven't spent the time to learn these facts. So I credit all of you with doing the right thing here. You will feel much better, more prepared, even though it takes some time to learn these things, to research it. It's well worth it, and I applaud all of you for being part of this today.
Yeah, every time you listen to something like this, you learn something new. And I even learned something new today too. So I was
Yeah.
happy to be here for that
Me
reason.
too. I think that's the key, right? You take the benefit specific information that we learned from Tammy, and then you take the access you get from Shane, and then you bring it to us, and we help you put it all together. So we like to be we call it the quarterback of your financial life. So yeah, awesome.
All right. Well, thank you all again. And also thank you so much, WAEPA, for hosting. I appreciate those 182 of you who hung on for a full extra
Wow.
15 minutes.
Wow.
We look forward to
Been a very
sharing this information with you all in the next day or so.
Great. Thanks,
Thank
Casey.
you.
Thanks,
Bye.
Tammy. Thanks,
Thank
Shane.
you
Take care,
all very
guys.
much.
Thanks,
Bye,
everyone.
everybody.